Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. Lost Caverns of Ixalan returns us to a land inspired by the Age of Discovery, where lush jungles hold great treasures and ancient mysteries. But if you're new to the game, or returning after a break, you might have missed our first visit to this tropical paradise. To help you find your way around, today I'll be giving you a quick tour of Ixalan, and I'll introduce you to some of the important characters, locations, and events that you might see referenced on cards in the new set. Please keep all hands and heads inside the vehicle because there will be dinosaurs. This video is sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, and I invite you to do some exploring of your own by clicking my link found down below, which will take you to a treasure trove of information about the latest set for Magic the Gathering. Our first visit to the Plain of Ixalan was in 2017, during which we followed the Planeswalker Jace as he attempted to recover his lost memories with help from an unlikely ally and future romantic partner, Vraska. The two would ultimately locate a supremely powerful magical artifact known as the Immortal Sun, which was instrumental in helping the dragon Nicol Bolas invade Ravnica and enact his plan to cast the Elder Spell, but that's a story for another time. Ixalan itself is both the name of the plane and its most prominent island, which is contested by a variety of factions, each hoping to control the riches contained within. First, we have the Sun Empire, humans who have domesticated many of the island's dinosaurs. Yep, Ixalan is home to some very interesting creature types, which makes for some pretty thrilling exploration if you're not ready for it. Dinosaurs are a big deal on Ixalan, and our original visit even gave us a handful of elder dinosaurs, ancient and wild, untamed by humans, but willing to answer their call during their darkest hour. Watley is a notable character from the Sun Empire. She serves as their warrior poet, leading troops in battle while acting as a sort of living memory of their history and accomplishments. She was a planeswalker, but like many others, she lost her spark during the aftermath of the Phyrexian invasion, so she is presently bound to Ixalan, omen paths notwithstanding. Also inhabiting the island of Ixalan, you'll find the River Heralds, merfolk who make their homes among the waterways and rainforests. They tend to avoid the Sun Empire and act as protectors of Ixalan's many secrets and treasures, believing them to be too powerful for anyone to hold, including themselves. Instead, they focus on achieving harmony with nature rather than conquering it. They have access to elementals and can influence the wind and water of their jungle habitat. You might also note that some of the merfolk here are green and are just as comfortable on land as their blue siblings are in the seas, which gave this faction an unusual color identity on our first visit to the plane. Expanding outward from the island of Ixalan proper, we start to encounter the pirates that roam the surrounding waterways. There are actually several different fleets of pirates operating under a loose banner as the Brazen Coalition, and their ranks are filled with humans, orcs, goblins, and sirens. Diverse as they may be, they are often united in a single purpose: find treasure. And if they can't do that, they can at least get together for a drink at the floating city High and Dry, a sort of staging ground where they swap gear and stories between adventures. The pirates made use of the raid mechanic, which rewarded being aggressive, but that won't be returning for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Instead, the pirates have sort of settled down and are now exploring more lucrative economic opportunities. They do still enjoy their booty, though. Arr! Anyway, as I said before, there is more to Ixalan than its namesake island, and across the storm-wrecked sea, you'll find a place called Tour of Ixalan, a continent filled with vampires. You heard that right. Vampires! And not just the regular black and red ones we were used to seeing at this point. These blood drinkers had a strong religious component to them, so they showed up here in white to symbolize their piety. Unfortunately for the natives of the island of Ixalan, the vampires' intentions are not entirely pure. In our first visit to the plane, the Legion of Dusk was attempting to recover the immortal sun, which they viewed as a sort of holy relic and their divine right. But when it was removed from the plane, a vampire named Elenda basically shrugged and said, "Well, I guess that's that." You see, Elenda was a saint, a vampire of great fame, because she was the first of their kind and believed the blessing of immortality would help her fellow vampires learn humility over time, which would be their salvation. However, over many, many years, her original teachings were distorted or lost, and the fact that she had sealed herself away in the tomb of a bat god didn't really help. So, rather than use their gifts to find peace, the vampires relentlessly pursued the immortal sun, which brought them to the island of Ixalan and into direct conflict with the Sun Empire and the River Heralds. Many of the pirates in the Brazen Coalition were actually refugees and exiles from Torazan who had fled their homes as the vampires rose to power. All of which means the vampires were a bunch of bloodthirsty zealots that nobody wanted to deal with, but they insisted on establishing a presence on the island, with places like Adanto serving as their foothold here. At the conclusion of the original Ixalan story, Elenda began preaching compassion and restraint to the other vampires, but not all of them accepted her message. A few, like Vito, clung to the old ways and started a new quest. They would find Aklazotz, rescue him from his confinement, and return him to power. With this god at their side, they would then overthrow Saint Elenda and usher in a new age of vampire domination. And that sets the stage pretty nicely for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, where the Sun Empire tries to hold its ground against a particularly vicious subsect of vampires led by Vito. There are plenty more mysteries to uncover in the jungles of Ixalan, but the real treasure might be deeper still, in the bat-filled caves that hold some fearsome creatures and artifacts of immense power. Will Watley and the Sun Empire reconnect with their long-lost relatives? Or will Vito unlock an ancient evil and reign supreme? We'll find out November 17, when the Lost Caverns of Ixalan descends upon your favorite local game store. And remember, you can learn all about the cards in this exciting set by clicking the link found down below. Which faction of Ixalan is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!